Alright, I thought I'd show you a quick little demo on how I took the contrast from a flat image and made it pop and added a sky and made it look like an entirely different day. I actually had an hour and a half drive today to shoot a job and the fog didn't lift, and I was either faced with going back again, basically 3 hours of driving for 45 minutes of shooting, or maybe an hour and a half worth of Photoshop. That's what I did. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to grab a sky that we're going to use. And this is actually something from the other day. And even though I'm in Lightroom, doesn't really matter. I'm essentially going to grab the sky out of the photo, and then I will put it into a new one. So I'm basically just going to use the marquee tool, and I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to do a Control C, put it on the clipboard, and I'm going to get out of that. And I'm not going to save it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a photo that I'm going to put a new sky in. While I'm in Lightroom, though, I'm going to make a few quick adjustments to it. I've got the lens profile figured out. I've actually got kind of my own recipe to give it some snap. It'll make it too dark, but I just open up the exposure, as you can tell, add a little more snap to it and contrast, and I'm happy there. So now I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. The shortcut to that is Control E, and it's going to launch it into Photoshop, and there it is. So we're going to take one of the simplest of all selection tools, and we're going to grab the magic wand, which is right here, and then I'm just hit the sky, the area that I wanted to select, and it picked up the sky very quickly. And you'll also notice my tolerance was set relatively low at 14. The larger your tolerance, the greater range of tone it's going to look for. So we wanted to keep it relatively shallow, so we picked a low tolerance of 14. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and use kind of a forgotten part of Photoshop called Paste Into, or Alt-Shift-Control-V. And what's cool about that is it's more or less self-masking, and it took exactly what was in the clipboard and pasted it right into, and if you notice over on the right, it created a nice little mask. Now, as you can see, it does not fit the conformity that we want, so we're just going to transform it. We can go up to the menu and say transform, or we can just use the shortcut Control T, and that way if we want to scale it in proportion, we hold the Shift key down. Since it's clouds and forgiveness, we don't necessarily have to do it, but so now we can kind of move around and find some clouds that we like. Maybe we'll try something like that, and maybe see if there's something else. So yeah, and then if we like that, boom, we hit OK. Now you'll notice on the right we have two layers. We've got the masked layer with the clouds, and then we've got the background layer. What's nice is each of those is editable by itself. So I'm actually picking the cloud layer, and I'm just going to give it a little more density. So I'm selecting it, hitting Control M, which for some reason it doesn't seem to want to play nicely when I'm using this program to record, but I'm bringing up the curves, and I'm kind of giving it just a little bit of contrast, and I'm opening up those whites, and again, like I said, my adjustments I'm actually able to do on each particular layer. So I'm going to adjust the background layer again in curves, and normally that's Control M, but this curves, here we go, and Control M. So now, since I'm on it, you notice I've got the layer selected. I'm going to give it just a little more contrast. Boom. I'm going to open up my whites a little bit, and then I can open up these midtones. I can grab this to get exactly what I want to get here. And you'll notice it gives me a nice little curve, and then I'm just going to give it a little bit more, open this gap a little bit too, and just give it a little more snap, and voila, that essentially is the completion of our photo. And now I'm going to pause it for a second and go to the back and forth. And now you can see a side-by-side comparison where the one on the right actually looks like it could have been shot in a much nicer day than it actually was. We've got more contrast, we've got more snap, and we've got a somewhat believable sky. And what was nice about the samples that I had just put up as a contact sheet is they all look like they were very likely shot with different skies, but they all had the same sky. I just adjusted it a little differently. I hope this was worth your watch. Again, that paste into is really a pretty cool command, and it only works after you make your selection. Thank you.